Dear professional, today we discuss top reasons to conduct an audit according to CISA review manual. Audit are conducted for a variety of reasons. An audit can help an organization by 4 ways. Number 1, ensure effective operation. Operational effectiveness is about doing the right things. It revolves around making sure that all the core work done by the organization creates value to their end customer. Number 2, affirm its compliance with various regulation. So regulatory compliance is when a business focus state, federal, and international law and regulation revealed to its operation. Number 3, confirm that the business is functioning well. So by auditing, we can observe, we can ensure that the organization growing revenue, end user satisfaction, profitability ratio, activity ratio, new client take service, profit margin are high, etc. Number 4, prepare to meet potential challenges. So how do business expect to grow their revenue? Technology integration and upgradation is the regular practice of current business environment. So organizations need to provide information security, including data privacy, storage, and management. These 4 things is confirmed by the auditing. And an organization can be benefited by this 4 way, which is performed by the audit. Most significantly, an audit can assure stakeholders of the financial, operational, and ethical well-being of the organization. If we see the in details, or if we see the competitive advantages, IS audit is the formal examination and or testing of information systems to determine whether information systems are in compliance with the applicable law. So in this part, the auditor performs the compliance audit. As for example, all banking systems are regulated by the central regulatory body or central bank of a country. The central bank provides a lots of rules, regulation for banking activities. So by auditing, we can confirm our organization may be confirmed by checking that the rules or regulation is complied or not. Information systems and related process comply with governance criteria and related and revealed policies and procedure. So a country provide policies and procedure. We know policy is the high level document. Sometimes we consider policies as a constitution. And policy is the mandatory. On the other hand, procedure is optional or non-mandatory. So by performing the IS audit, we can confirm that the organization follow the policies and procedure provided by the government. Information have appropriate level of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So for the formal examination or testing of information systems, we confirm that the IS data and information have appropriate level of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So we know data is the raw material of information, and information is the process data. So we have to provide the data and information's protection. Protection means no one can unauthorizedly change the data, modify data, or read the data. So CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality means no one can read unauthorizedly the data. Unauthorized user cannot read the data. So read operation is performed in confidentiality. Integrity, unauthorized modification cannot perform here. So we have to ensure that no one can change the data or modify the data. Availability ensure that unauthorized people cannot make the busy in the system. So when the authorized user try to access the data must be available for them, for the authorized user. So he can, if he need 24/7 hours this data, he will access the data 24/7 hours. So sometimes of those attack, denial of service attack is performed and the system is down. For this reason, the authorized user cannot connect to their server or cannot access their data, though they are the authorized user. So by ISO auditing, we can perform that the data and information have the level of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. ISO operating are being accomplished efficiently and effectively, target are being met. So two things is here, efficiently and effectively. So efficiently, that means the system provide the maximum output, and effectiveness means that it fulfill the requirement of the management. So by auditing, we can perform these four things. Now, during the audit process, an IS auditor should review. So what is audit process? The IS audit process is the procedural structure used by the auditor to assess and evaluate the effectiveness of the IT organization and how well it support the organization's overall goal and objective. So during the audit process, the IS auditor should review control framework, that's by which framework he conduct the audit. So there are different types of control framework available in auditing system. They may use the ITAF, Information Technology Assurance Framework. They may use the ISO framework. Different types of framework is available in the market. So first of all, he select the control framework. Then he have to gather the evidence. He collect data from the organization. So after collecting the data, he has to evaluate the SWOT and weakness of the internal control based on the evidence. That means after collecting the evidence, he will conduct the SWOT analysis. He find out the strong point, he find out the weakness, because he have to prepare the final report and he will check the internal control. Is it working well or not? So if the internal control are not appropriate, then the auditor provide the best recommendation, and according to this evidence, you have to prepare the audit report. And the audit report have several parts. That reporting have several phase, subphase. So we'll discuss in the next section about the audit report. And we know that the audit report represent the weakness and recommendation for the remediation in an objective manner to stakeholder. Here we discuss the audit process. We know there are three major phases of audit process. Number one, planning. Number two, fieldwork and documentation. Number three, reporting and follow. So these are the main phase of audit process. So this phase can be divided into several sub-phases. We'll see later. So we have to make questions from each para or each paragraph of this CISA review manual. When we read a paragraph, we have to think that how the question will be appeared in the real exam. We have to make question by ourselves. When you will make a lots of question from a paragraph, then your concept will be very clear. And finally, you will achieve the certification. Sometimes we neglect the optional things. Say here, the second phase is fieldwork and documentation. We read planning, fieldwork, and reporting, and we neglect the documentation or follow-up part. But sometimes the question come like this: planning, documentation, and reporting. But for the reason of negligence of the documentation, we can't remember that. Is it the part of the audit process or not? So we have to read each and every part of the section. If we see a question, how we make a question from this paragraph, which of the following is not the major phase of audit process? So we know three phases: planning, fieldwork, and reporting. So here, option B, planning; option C, fieldwork; option D, reporting. So ultimately, option D, management approval, it's not the major phase. Here, main part is major phase. Main key point is major phase. So we know three major phases are planning, fieldwork, and reporting. So according to our discussion, the correct answer is A. Management approval is not the major phase of audit process. We should follow each and every figure in the CISA review manual, each and every table in the CISA review manual, because these are very informative and very essential for exam. This main phase of audit process can be divided or broken down into several subphases. As for example, here reporting or follow-up, if we broke in this phase, we will get report writing and issuance, issue follow-up, and audit closing. So we also find out the main phase. The professional, in the CISA review manual, you will get a lots of note, keyword, short note, like this. In this note, they're trying to find out the differences between the information systems and information technology. They told that information systems are distinct from information technology. So what is the main difference between the IS and IT? In this discussion, here show that an information systems has an IT component that interact with the process component. So for information systems, we say that it has the IT component plus process component. And IT is defined as the hardware, software, communication, and other facilities used to input, store, process, transmit, output data in whatever forms. So we know that information systems is the superset and information technology is subset. Information technology consists of hardware, software, and network equipment, whereas information systems consist of IT, that's mean hardware, software, and network equipment, and some processes and some process component. So we have to remember always that information systems is a superset and information technology is the subset. In this section, we'll see the information systems audit standard, guideline, and code of ethics. So a standard is the mandatory things. A standard is always mandatory. And ISACA published its information technology assurance framework, which is called the ITAF. And ITAF is a professional practice framework for ISO audit and assurance. ITAF consists of the ISACA Code of Professional Ethics, ISO Audit and Assurance Standard, ISO Audit and Assurance Guideline, Professional Ethics, and ISO Audit and Assurance Tools and Techniques. So ISACA does not require CISA candidates to memorize the ITAF, but they should understand its importance and purpose. So here, adherence to commonly accepted standard, that's mean the fundamental elements of ISO audit, are defined and provided within ISACA's ISO audit and assurance standard and guidelines. Then ISACA Code of Professional Ethics guides the professional and personal conduct of ISACA member and certification holders. So ISACA ISO audit and assurance standard in this section, the option that is mandatory requirement for the ISO auditing and reporting. So it's a mandatory requirement. The people who is going to conduct an audit, or the people, those who are the practitioner of ISO audit or who follow the ISACA CISA review manual or audit process, they must maintain, they must follow the ISACA ISO audit and assurance standard. So here, a variety of audience of critical informations, such as the following. For IS auditor, the minimum level of acceptable performance required to meet the professional responsibilities set out in the ISACA Code of Professional Ethics. So for auditor, the minimum level of acceptable performance is required. As for example, you are going to conduct a core banking solution, conduct an audit of a core banking solution. But unfortunately, you have no expertise, you have no vast knowledge on core banking solution. So according to ISACA's audit and assurance standard, they encourage you that you should not do or you should not perform these types of audit because you have no good experience, you have no enough experience on core banking solution. This is ISACA Code of Professional Ethics. For management and other interested parties, the profession's expectation concerning the work of practitioners. So it's like the A. First option indicate that in the perspective of auditor, and second option show the in the perspective of management. And third option for the holders of the CISA designation, that's when you will be a certified information systems auditor, you need professional performance. And by different types of training, CP session, you have to enrich your knowledge in different types of area. So this three standard is very important for CISA exam. Here they also told some tools and techniques, provide examples of process and IS audit might follow in an audit engagement letter. So I mark these topics in different color because it's new for different types of people who want to sit for CISA exam. So audit engagement. So we will learn what is on audit engagement or audit engagement letter or audit charter. After a few minutes, we'll see it also. So ISACA, IS audit and assurance standard are divided into three categories. Number one, general. Number two, performance. And number three, reporting. So in the general category, the main concern is principles under which the IS assurance professions operate. So here some point is marked in general standard. Say IS auditors ethics, independence, objectivity, due care, as well as knowledge, competency, and skill. In the performance category, deal with conduct of the assignment, such as planning and supervision, scoping, risks and materiality, resource mobilization, supervision, and assignment management, audit and assurance evidence. So you have to understand that what is the difference between the general and performance categories. What are the key points of general and performance categories? So you have to find out the differences. As for example, due care is in the general category, but in the performance category, due care not exist. So you have to find out the key differences here. Number 3, reporting. So address the types of reports. So we'll get a lots of reports. Say SOC report. We know that SOC report has 3 types: SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3. So different types of report, reporting standard, communication standard, communication medium we have to learn in reporting part. In the section 1.1.2, ISACA audit assurance and ISACA audit and assurance guidelines. So as our discussion, we told that audit guidelines is optional. Audit standard is mandatory. Code of ethics is mandatory, and audit guideline is optional. That's mean we can reconfigure it, we can customize it, we can design as our record. But in this section, guideline provides the guidance and additional information on how to comply with the ISACA as audit and assurance standard. The IS auditor should follow these 3 things. Number 1, consider them in determining how to implement ISACA audit and assurance standard. Their first target is how to implement ISACA audit and assurance standard. Then use the professional judgment, professional experience, and implement the professional expertise in applying them to a specific audit. And finally, the auditor be able to justify any departure from the ISACA audit and assurance standard. Just he observed that in any option is excluded from his plan, from his work, which is defined in part A, in option A, ISACA audit and assurance standard. So you will get the ISACA audit standard guidelines or code of ethics in the following link: isaca.org/standard or guideline or code of ethics. You also get this information in ITAF framework, Information Technology Assurance Framework. Now we'll discuss the ISACA Code of Professional Ethics. It's the mandatory. Code of Professional Ethics is mandatory for the IS auditor or the practitioner. So here they mark that shall, ISACA member and certification holder shall. That means it's mandatory for ISACA member or ISACA certification holders, CISA certification holders. Number 1, support governance. So they have to understand the organizational internal rules regulation. They have to understand the organization's controlling body or regulatory bodies, informations, rules, regulations. They have to understand the industry best practice or guidelines. Finally, they have to support the governance and management of enterprise information systems and technology, including audit, control, security, and risk management. The second point of professional ethics, code of ethics, is perform their duties with objectively. So duties with objectivity, due diligence, professional care in accordance with the professional standard. So here objectivity means that when performing an audit, the auditor only follow the audit charter or audit engagement letter. So when they're performing the audit, they show that 5 option is mentioned in his audit charter, But one important option is neglected or is omitted in the Audit Charter. They do not include these important things in their Audit Charter. So what they should perform? They should perform the extra things in his audit scope or not? Definitely, he will not perform the extra work. He only follow the defined scope of the audit. So he always perform duties with objectivity. So we see two things, due care and due diligence. So due care is like do correct, and due diligence is do detect. So what is the difference between the due care and due diligence? I have already shared a video in my YouTube channel. If you're interested, you can see here. I describe it with explanation, differentiate, and also provide some question on due diligence and due care. You must get at least one question in due care or due diligence. You must get one question. So our second point is code of professional ethics. Perform their duties. That's mean IS auditor must perform their duties with objectivity, due diligence, professional care in accordance with the professional standard. Number three, serve in the interest of stakeholder in a lawful manner. That's mean you always serve in the interest of stakeholder, but you of course follow the law. You should maintain the lawful manner. Option 4, maintain the privacy and confidentiality of information. So you should not share the information to the competitor of this organization, or you could not use the information for your personal purpose. So you have to maintain information shall not be used for personal benefit or release to inappropriate parties. That's mean competitor. You have to maintain the competency in respective field in which field you are going to conduct the audit. As per our previous example, you are going to conduct an audit in a core banking solution, but you have no deep knowledge, you have no knowledge about the core banking solution. So according to your code of ethics, you cannot do this job, you cannot perform these types of audit. Inform appropriate parties of the result of work performed, including the disclosure of all significant facts known to them that, if not disclosed, may distort the reporting of the result. So ultimately, when you perform the audit, finally you have to submit the report. And when you submit the report, it ensures that your work or your project is complete. Option 7 is very important. Support the professional education of the stakeholder in enhancing their understanding of the governance and management of enterprise information systems and technology, including audit, control, security, and risk management. To a professional, we know that the audit charter or audit engagement letter is issued by the top management or senior management. And finally, when we perform the audit, in the last part of our audit, we have to submit the report to the management. So ultimately, management engage you in our audit. Also, you have to submit the report to the management. So many organizations do not follow the exact process. That means the higher management or top management or senior management who issue the audit charter or audit engagement letter, they just sign in the form. They just sign in the letter, but they are not conscious or they are not informed in details work. So when you submit the report to that management, management may not understand the findings or may not understand about the audit. For this reason, in the early of the audit, you have to share in details about the audit, about the control, about the security, and about the risk management with the management of the audit. This is called support the professional education of a stakeholder in enhancing their understanding of the governance and management of enterprise information systems and technology. So you will get this document in ISACA website, ITAF, Information Technology Assurance Framework. And this framework contains the standard, the guidelines, the code of ethics, etc. So this framework is not mandatory for your exam, but for a practitioner, this document is so much helpful. So we also discuss business processes. So when an auditor is going to audit a system, first of all, you have to understand the business process of the organization. As auditor must understand and be able to evaluate the business process of the organization they are auditing. So they have to capable to find out the internal control, lackings of the internal control, how the internal control is functioning, is it perfect or not, is it effective or ineffective. So business process owner is the individual responsible for identifying process requirement, approving process design, and managing process performance. So sometimes you can get a question like that: which of the following personnel is responsible for identifying process requirement? So you'll get some option like business process owner, system analyst, top management, senior management. So we always remember that the business process owner is fully responsible for identifying the process requirement or approving the process design and managing process performance. So we have to find out the roles of data, the roles of process, the roles of the systems owner. So resource to process a specific risk management activities. As internal audit function is the next part. So here we mark different color because it helps you to memorize or remember these things. You can easily differentiate different important section. So in this section, we discuss that the role of the IS audit or IS internal audit function should be established by the Audit Charter. So you can get a question or you make a question like that. As internal audit function should be established by which of the following document? You will get 4 options. You have to select one option and perfect exact option. So it's clear to us that internal audit function should be established by the Audit Charter, and Audit Charter is approved by the Board of Directors and the Audit Committee or Senior Management. So first priority, Board of Directors. If Board of Directors not available or they are not able to provide you the time, then the second option is Audit Committee and then Senior Management. So in the question, if you get which of the following personnel is responsible for approved Audit Charter? Number A, Audit Committee. Number B, Board of Directors. Number C, Business Owner. Number D, CITO. So you have to select the first option here, Board of Directors. Though Board of Directors is in the second option. First option is Audit Committee, but you should follow that in the CISA review manual. The Board of Directors is the first priority. So here, Audit Charter. So what is Audit Charter? So Audit Charter is that document that should clearly state management responsibility and objectives for delegation of authority to IS audit function. So Audit Charter is that document which document describes the overall authority of audit. In this section, we get 4 things in Audit Charter. We know Audit Charter contains 4 things. Number 1, the mission or purpose. The mission or purpose of an audit. So mission or purpose means here you can get the overall direction. You can get the goal of the organization in this Audit Charter. Then you will get a second option in Audit Charter, that is the responsibility. So first option is purpose. Purpose contains goal, mission, objective, scope, and governance. Second option or second point is a responsibility. Responsibility. Third point is accountability, and fourth point is authority. So these 4 things is clearly addressed in Audit Charter. Purpose, responsibility, authority, and accountability. So here they told that the highest level of management and the audit committee, if one exists, should approve this charter. Once established, this charter should be changed only if the change can be and is truly justified. So Audit Charter is not dynamic. You cannot change frequently. If you need to change this document, you have to truly justify it. Just when you have to follow a long process. In the next paragraph, they told that the responsibility, authority, accountability of the IS audit function should be appropriately documented in the audit charter or audit engagement letter. So they mark that audit charter or audit engagement letter. So is audit charter and audit engagement letter same? No. In the next line, they told that an audit charter is an overarching document that covers the entire scope of the audit activities in an entity. While an engagement letter is more focused on a particular audit exercise that is sought to be initiated in the organization with a specific objective in mind. So there is the difference between the audit charter and audit engagement letter. So if we see an example that in the what we know audit charter is for the internal auditor, and for external auditor, audit engagement letter is issued. For example, when you issue the audit charter or you create the audit charter, here the job is defined like that. You have to audit a core banking solution and you have to audit loan and advance core system or account opening system, cash management system. You have to audit this part. But in audit engagement letter, for these types of audit, they mark very specifically. You have to audit cash management system, a receipt payment system, vault system. That's been more specifically they mentioned in audit engagement letter. Management of the IS audit function. In the management of the IS audit function, it's mean that audit function should be managed and lead in a manner that ensure that the diverse tasks performed and achieved by the audit team will fulfill audit function objectives while preserving audit independence and competence. So managing the IS audit function should ensure value-added contribution to senior management in the efficient management of IT and achievement of business objectives. So finally, the question is asked about how audit function help management. How audit function help management. So actually, by performing the audit, it add value to the organization, and by this way, the management benefited. This is the simple statement. So IS audit resource management. IS audit resource management. So you have actually IS audit resource management is a part of audit which ensure three things. If we perform the audit, we get three types of reasons. Here we can manage the people, we can manage the process, we can manage the technology. So here we perform different types of job or different types of work here. So technology or IS technology is constantly changing. For this reason, the resource or the tools must upgrade. If we not upgrade the existing skill or we don't take the training directly toward the new audit techniques or tools, then we cannot perform the audit effectively and efficient way. So an IS auditor must maintain technical competency through appropriate continuing professional education, that's been CPE session by conducting, or or by attending the CP session, skill and knowledge should be taken into consideration when planning, audit, and assigning staff to a specific audit assignment. So we have need detailed staff training plan. That's mean long-term plan or short-term plan, and we have to periodically review the content of the training, because the training effort and result are aligned to the direction that the audit organization is taking. As audit management should also provide the necessary IT resource to properly perform as audit of a highly specified nature. That's mean here tools, methodology, and program work. So in the next session, audit planning. So in the audit planning, we also mark here, we know that planning means there are three types of planning: short-term planning, long-term planning, strategic planning. So actually short-term planning means within the year. The planning that covered during the year is called the short-term planning. Whereas long-term planning means more than 1 year. And we know that another planning, strategic planning, that's been 3 to 5 years planning is called the strategic planning. Here, a new keyword is found here, audit universe. Very, very important. For this reason, I marked it in red color, audit universe. So actually, audit universe ideally lists all of the processes that may be considered for audit. So the document which contains all of the process of a audit for the audit universe. Here, I also marked the risk factors. So actually, risk factors are those factors that influence the frequency and the business impact of the risk scenario. So ultimately, we know risk is the product of probability into impact, or we can say that risk equal to asset value into threat into vulnerability. So we know that vulnerability is the weakness of a system, and threat, by exploiting the vulnerabilities, threat may occur. So actually vulnerability is internal issue and threat may be internal or external. So risk equal to, or risk is the product of asset value into threat into vulnerability. So we'll see the different types of risk categorization, risk matrix. Now we want to discuss the how risk is rated. In CISA review manual, we always follow the CISA review manual for this example or for this exam. You will get lots of document in the internet, in the web, or in the book, but you must follow this CISA review manual for your exam. Here they treated or they rated risks in 3 categories: high, medium, and low. So high category risks, that's mean if these types of incident is performed or damage is performed, and to recover this situation, or you have to take more than 6 months. So if we provide like this example, say in this pandemic situation, in this COVID-19 situation, maximum country stop their shipment, their communication through the air or through the ship. You will not able to procure the core system of a data center. You need the core server of core banking solution. But in this pandemic situation, the server is down and immediately you need the server. But the communication with other countries is not possible at this moment because due to the pandemic situation. And if you want to get this server, you have to wait at least 6 months. So in this situation, this server is high risk or high rated equipment for you. Medium rated risk is like that. If a damage is performed, to recover the system, you have to wait less than 6 months, but more than 3 months. That means you have to wait 3 to 6 months. This is called the medium rated risks. And low rated risks, less than 3 months. That means you can collect this instrument, you can collect these elements from your local or your neighbor countries. This is called the low risk. So every auditor should perform risk-based auditing. Risk-based auditing is mandatory. So when you analysis about the organization, you have find out the elements, equipment, you have to categorize the elements or asset of the organization. You have to calculate the risk matrix or you have to follow the risk matrix because you have to perform the risk-based audit always. We have to perform risk-based audit and it is the first priority for the auditing systems. So here they provide some example. And for these types of high risk rated situation, ISACA suggests that at least annually we have to recheck, we have to review the annual audit plan for high risk rated things. That they also provide some types of risks and other types of risks. They told that amount of risks that management is accepting if it does not add or augment in the existing audit resources. So here short-term or long-term issues should occur at least annually. That means you have to review the audit plan at least annually. And they also mention some things that which one you have to review. Say, as for example, new control issue, change in the risk environment, technologies, business processes. This we have to observe it. In the individual audit assignment, with planning and audit, the IS auditor must understand the overall environment under review. So this is the auditor's first job. They have to understand the audit is environment. Audit is business process, everything. First of all, the IS auditor should review it. So steps of perform audit planning. The professional, I always told you that for CISA exam, CISA review manual contains some figure, some tables, some comparison tables. These are so much very, very important for exam. And when you see the steps, you must memorize at least first three option and last option. Because most of the question appear like that, which of the following is the first step? First is the keyword here. So here, the first step is gain an understanding of the organization mission, objective, purpose, and processes. This is the first step of audit planning. So question may be appear like that, which of the following is the first step to perform audit planning. Now, the trick is that sometimes they omit this first option and they provide the next 4 steps for a step of performing audit plan. But when you memorize this thing, you read that gain an understanding of the organization mission objective. This is the first step. But in the question, you will not get this option. Ultimately, when you get the second option there, this second option is treated as the first option if first option not appeared there. For this reason, I request you at least first 3 steps you have to memorize it. And you know that in CISA exam, it's like a game. Here you have to memorize 20% total from total amount, 100%, you have to memorize 20%. Here for language or for logical issues is 20%, and rest of the 60% is understanding the business, understanding the process. That's mean 60% you have to take the clear concept. Like this discussion is very helpful for you. So steps to perform the audit planning. First step is gain understanding of the organization mission, objective, purpose, and processes. Second step is gain an understanding of the organization's governance structure. You have to understand the organization's organogram. You can get a lot of information from the organogram. Roles, responsibilities, accountabilities, authorities, everything you will get from the organization's governance structure. Then you have to understand the changes in the business environment of the audit. Then a review period work paper like this. So you have to understand, you have to make more concentration on these topics, on these pointers. And when you get any bulletin point like this, you have to read the bulletin point. So effect of law and regulation on the audit planning. So definitely when you will go to perform an audit and organization, first of all, you have to understand the organization's internal rules and regulation. Then you have to understand the organization's authority or organization's controlling body, regulatory bodies, rules, regulation. You have to understand the national regulation, industry best practice regulation, and finally, international regulation. You have to understand it. You have to make clear concept on this regulation for audit planning. Because some cases you will see that in some countries, halon gas is banned in some countries. Like in Canada, halon gas is totally banned. So when you perform the audit in Canada, then you have to mind that here halon gas is banned. But when we perform audit in another country, you can comply that it's not an issue for that country. So country to country, you have to understand the law and regulation. And ISACA always encourage you that you always follow the local law and regulation. You always follow the local law and regulation. So law and regulation is very important for the audit planning. They are a concern. I mark this color in red because it's important. In exam question, you will get like this keyword: concern, best, most, first, least. So these are very important. For this reason, you have to say here major concern area, legal requirement placed on the audit or ISO audit, and legal requirement placed on the auditee, and its systems, data management, reporting, etc. So you have to understand this way. And these areas impact the audit scope and audit objective, definitely. So you can get like this question, which of the following area or which of the following topics impact the audit scope and audit objectives? They provide an option from here and make another 3 options. So you have to find out the option that placed here from these 2 options. So here you have to follow this bulleting point and document applicable law, regulation, assess whether the management of the organization and IT function have considered the revealed external requirements, review the internal IT department like this. So here they've also provided a short note that they told that a CISA candidate will not be asked about any specific law or regulation, but may be questioned about how one would audit for the compliance with the law and regulation. So it's very important. So they always encourage to follow the local law and regulation. They're professional. Here in this section, they discuss about the business process application and control. Business process application and control. So in an integrated application environment, control are embedded and designed into the business application that support the processes. So business process control assurance involve evaluating the control at the process and activity level. This control, that's mean business control. This business control may be a combination of management, programmed and manual control. They also told here a general control that affect the business process owner specific control, such as stabilizing, proper security and segregation of duties. So you have to read these types of paragraph very seriously, because question comes from this paragraph. So if we make a question from this paragraph, you always think that what kind of question may appear from this line, from the sentences, from this paragraph. So here we say that business process control may be a combination of management, programmed and manual control. These types of control. So if we make a question here, and you see that which of the following is a component of business process control? Number 1, manual control. Option B, owner specific control. Owner C, access control. Option D, periodic review control. So we know that business process control is the combination of 3. Number 1, management. Number 2, program. Number 3, manual control. So from this option, here manual control is available. So correct answer is A. So like this way, we have to prepare the question for this paragraph. Here there describes the different types of e-commerce system. That's been increasingly they are trying to introduce the IS-based system, information system based application. First of all, that describes about the e-commerce. So you have to know what are the main components of e-commerce. What is the basic of e-commerce? So you have to think 4 things. Now, first of all, you have to understand about the topics. You have to understand the merits and demerits. You have to understand what are the risks of the system. What are the controls of the system? And number 4, when you perform the auditing, what should be you do? What should you do? Because you have to prepare the report. You have to gather the report and evidence. And according to the data, according to the evidence, you have to prepare the report. The report contains the recommendation as well as you have to provide different suggestion. And finally, you have to submit this report to management. So you have to understand each and every topics here. Every topics is important. So e-commerce is normal things. That's we know that buying or selling online, web-based online buying or selling platform is like the e-commerce. So you have to understand what are the risks, what are the types of e-commerce, what are the risks of the e-commerce, what are the technology or how the e-commerce is performed. They told here that the single tier architecture, that's mean client-based application running on a single computer. Say you have a computer, you just perform or you just download a software, you perform your job and you just print out here. So there is no other connection with another computer. You have no connection with the internet. You just install a software here, you see the report, you enter in this computer and one PC. That is called the single tier. Two-tier architecture is like a client server. So one PC is like as a server. You install the software here and you connect another PCs with this server and you use this application. That's been you installed here a software. So it's like the server and the client option or other PC installed another software or client of the software, and you access the server through these PCs. So one server and another client PC is available called the two-tier architecture. So what is the three-tier architecture? Here they comprise the following criteria. Number one, here must have a presentation type, that's been display and such as web page. Mozilla, Firefox, you use this web browser for presentation type. Application type, that's been the software or application you installed there. And data type, that's been database server or file sharing server. These types of server is available here. So in type 3, the basic difference is that here you will get the web page or web browser. That's mean you will get the graphical user interface of the operating systems. This is called the three-tier. You will get some topics here, middleware, and you know that the Domain-5 is fully discuss about the different component or different asset of the organization, information systems, information technology, different types of asset, middleware, what is middleware, and different malware. Malware, that's malicious ware. So what is malware? Malware or malicious software is any program or files that is harmful to a computer user. So types of malware can include computer virus, worms, Trojan horse, spyware. These are the example of malware. So here they also told about the application server. So application server in conjunction with other middleware product provide a multi-tied systems. And what is application? What is web server? Different types of technological terms is discussed here. They are back-end, front-end, ERP systems for security purpose. They told different types of technological term here. Metadata, what is metadata? Data about the data, that's been description of a data is called the metadata. So what are the risks of e-commerce? So we have to understand the system. Then what are the risks of the system, what are the control of the system. So here trust between two parties is the major concern, is the most concern things for e-commerce systems. So here you have to understand the risks, that's mean confidentiality, integrity, availability. You have to ensure the CIA, right? Then authentication and non-repudiation. So we have already discussed what is confidentiality. Confidentiality ensure unauthorized disclosure. So unauthorized disclosure could not perform if we ensure the confidentiality. That's mean here no one can perform the read operation if he has no authority, he has no right. So unauthorized way cannot be performed the read operation. Integrity. So confidentiality, opposite of confidentiality is disclosure. Integrity. Integrity, that means no one can change the data, because we know that data are in three stages: data in rest, data in transmit, or data in process. So in this three stages, no one can change the data. So unauthorized way, no one can change the data, no one can modify the data. So opposite of integrity is alteration. And then availability. Availability, authorized user must access the data when they need to access that data. It may be 24/7 hours. That's mean authorized user can access data anytime. But if he could not access this data, this is called the unavailability, distraction. This is called the distraction. So opposite of availability is distraction. So CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The opposition is disclosure, alteration, and distraction. Authentication and non-repudiation. So we know that identification and authentication. Identification, that's mean user ID. Authentication is his password. And non-repudiation, that after performing a transaction will not be deny that he will not perform, or he was not performed this transaction. And non-repudiation ensure that he will not deny that this transaction or this action is not performed by him. So you will get different types of risks in e-commerce risks. So establish trust between two parties is the main risk. Then confidentiality, integrity, availability, authentication, non-repudiation, or shift to customers. So some online banking system, online share brokerage system, some power is shift to the customer. So customer can perform their operation by themselves instead of the organization. So what are the requirements of e-commerce? So always I told that the CISA exam is not an IT exam. This exam is business oriented, and here business always win. So as our previous discussion, we told that for e-commerce system, performing commerce or performing transaction, performing buying or selling through the internet. So some people think that internet is or IT is the first part here, but no. For e-commerce requirement, the first option is building a business case. And here I mark as red color that IT is an enabler. So IT as an enabler. So IT is not the main part. First option is not IT. First portion is building a business case, then developing a clear business purpose, and then using technology to first improve cost. So here, technology is the third part. We have to understand that why technology used by an organization. Every organization's management has a goal, has an objective. To achieve this goal or objective, they design some business process. And by this business process, they want to achieve this goal. To perform the business process in smoothly or smooth operation of this business process, they include here the technology. They include here the IT, information technology or information systems. So main purpose of information systems is smooth the business process. And this business process is defined by the top management to achieve the goal. So ultimately, without the business process or without the business, there is no value of the IT. So you think you always remember this matter, always. And in this exam, business always win, not IT. It's not a IT exam. So dear professional, you will get some other e-commerce requirements, say top management commitment, business process reconfiguration, link to legacy systems. So the systems should able or capable to or linkage with the legacy system. And that system is perfect system, or the system has the business resilience when the system is makes support, or the system can be leakage with the links with the another system. So links to the legacy system is very important. Now, the fourth option that I told before that, the fourth option is IS auditor's role in the e-commerce business. So what are the business e-commerce business? First of all, you have to understand the policy, procedure, internal control, external control. Here the auditor think both sides. He think or he consider him like a organization's people. Also, he consider himself like a customer. So first of all, in e-commerce system, you will see or review the e-commerce agreement, because finally when we fill up a form, we make a registration, we fill up some information, and finally we check mark, or we tick in the box that I agree with or I agreed. So the terms and conditions, the ISO auditor must be reviewed. Then for this online or web-based or technology-based system, he must review what are the protection mechanism, how data is secured, what types of control applied in the system, say firewall, internet firewall, public infrastructure, encryption, certification. For e-commerce, for transaction purpose, is the site is PCI DSS compliance or not, password management. These types of option must be reviewed by the ISO auditor. Then firewall mechanism, process, or participant in the e-commerce transaction can be identified uniquely and positively. Application log, audit log, security breaches, IDS, IPS, different types of security mechanism is performed here. So there are lots of bulleting point. So you have to read at least 2 times this reporting. And I always request you that before write your exam, you have to read this CISA review manual, CRM, at least 2 times. You have to understand and read this document at least 2 times. So in the next session, I will try to discuss rest of the section, uh, electronic data interchange. What is the purpose of the electronic data interchange? And by this way, by this thinking way, if you go, I think you will achieve your goal. You can be success in your exam. So thank you very much for watching this video. Okay, goodbye.